Hello sports fans, it is Thursday, September the 19th, the year 2013, and as usual, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. As you can see, we have taken the show outside today. It's a beautiful day outside. I figured I'd sit outside today and talk sports with you. Before we get to our NFL picks of the week, let's go through some scores of note from last night from the baseball. Let's start with the Yankees and Toronto, where the Yankees had a big come-from-behind win last night. They had to have this game. They're down 3-0 late in the game. They rallied to win. Tremendous win by the Yankees. Keeps their playoff hopes alive. Now, they still have a lot of work to do, the Yankees, but they do stay alive with that big win last night. Also, how about Baltimore going into Boston Fenway Park, and Baltimore for the second night in a row comes up with a big win. Chris Davis with the big hit. I mean, how good has Chris Davis been? He leads the league in home runs. He's tied in RBIs. He has the big hit last night. Baltimore showing a lot of moxie in these games. They're hanging around the wild card spot as well. Tampa Bay with a huge win last night. They beat Texas in extra innings. Texas actually grabbed the lead in extra innings. Tampa Bay came back and tied it and then ended up winning it. Tremendous win for Tampa Bay. Awful loss for Texas. They were 1 out away from winning this game with Joe Nathan on the mound, who's been lights out. Awful loss for Texas. They continue to slide. Kansas City beat Cleveland last night. Kansas City needed the game in the worst way. Cleveland still right there for the wild card as well. And in the National League, Atlanta beat Washington and Cincinnati beat Houston. So Cincinnati and Pittsburgh look like they're going to make the playoffs along with St. Louis, and it looks like Washington's going to run out of time. Washington was playing really good ball, but they couldn't afford any slip-ups. They lose last night, and Cincinnati wins. Washington is all but done. As far as your standings in the American League wild card as of today, Tampa Bay has the first wild card spot off that huge win against Texas last night. Texas hanging on to that last wild card spot by a thread. Texas is in a free fall. Cleveland right there. They're a half a game out, game in the loss column, and Cleveland's schedule very easy. They have 4 games with Houston and Cleveland, and then they have a series with the White Sox. So keep an eye on Cleveland. Look for them to make a move right now. Baltimore right there, 1 game out. Baltimore is really playing inspired baseball. Showalter doing a tremendous job. 2 gutty wins at Fenway Park. Baltimore right there. And the Yankees and Kansas City, 2.5 games out, 3 in the loss column. Those 2 teams have a lot of work to do. They can't afford any slip-ups. They both have to go on a really big winning streak right now. So that was kind of some of your stuff from baseball last night. Before I get to my NFL picks, I also want to mention Ken Norton Sr. passed away. So our condolences go out to the Norton family. Ken Norton Sr., of course, had those classic fights with Muhammad Ali. Very controversial decisions in those fights. If you ever get a chance to see those fights, Ken Norton Sr. against Muhammad Ali, definitely check it out. Some classic bouts. So Ken Norton Sr., rest in peace. You will be missed. Okay, without further ado, let's get to our NFL picks of the week. And we got a big NFL game tonight, a very intriguing matchup tonight. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs have the Thursday night game. The game is in Philadelphia tonight. Philadelphia is a 3.5-point favorite here. Philadelphia off the awful loss to San Diego last week. Philadelphia's got a great offense. They have a very shaky defense. Kansas City is much improved on both sides of the ball. Andy Reid doing a great job coaching. Andy Reid, of course, going back to Philadelphia where he used to coach. This is a very intriguing game, very tough game to call. I'm going to take Philadelphia, and here's why. It's a short week. Kansas City had a tough game against Dallas. Now they have a short week to prepare for a very tough Eagle offense. Kansas City had to travel. The Eagles are going to be in an ornery mood because they just came off a home loss to San Diego. I'm going to reluctantly take Philadelphia. I don't think they're going to lose back-to-back home games. I think their offense is going to be firing on all cylinders tonight. I think they get a few stops on defense. Kansas City's offense is not as good as San Diego's, which just shredded Philadelphia's. I'm going to reluctantly take Philadelphia -3.5 in Philly tonight over the Chiefs. Very intriguing game, though. Let's go to the Sunday games. Let's start in Tennessee, where Tennessee is at home, -3 over San Diego. These 2 teams have been very surprising this year. San Diego with the nice win against Philadelphia last week. should have beat Houston in week 1 before they faltered late in that game. Tennessee demolished Pittsburgh in week 1 and really should have beat Houston last week. So both teams a little bit of a surprise, a little better than what I thought. It's 3.5 points, Tennessee's favored. I'm going to say this is a field goal game either way. I'm going to take San Diego. Now, it's a tough spot for San Diego. They just traveled to the East Coast last week and won. Now they got to go back to the East Coast. I think it's a field goal game, though. I think it's tight. I think it's a field goal either way. I'm going to take San Diego plus 3.5 against Tennessee. Two surprising teams so far. I like the way both teams are playing. Let's keep an eye on these teams. Let's go to Minnesota, where the Minnesota Vikings are taking on the Cleveland Browns. Both teams 0-2. Both teams in dire straits of a win. I mean, Richardson, the running back for Cleveland, was just dealt to the Colts. That was a surprising move. I mean, the Browns just took him third in the draft about a year ago. They already gave up on him. The Browns don't have a lot of weapons as it is. Whedon is out. They're going with their second or third string quarterback this week, Cleveland. Listen, if Minnesota can't beat Cleveland at home, they can't beat anyone. So I am going to take Minnesota at home, minus 5.5 over the Browns. The Vikings have to find a way to pull out this win. Give the ball to Adrian Peterson on all 3 downs. First, second, third down. Keep giving the ball to Adrian Peterson. Let him do his thing. That should be enough to beat this anemic Cleveland Brown offense. All right, let's go to New England, where the New England Patriots are 7.5-point favorites over the Tampa Bay Bucks. New England is 2-0, and Tampa Bay is 0-2, and Tampa Bay is in a complete mess. Freeman looks like he could be traded. That no one's getting along with the coach Shiano. It looks like a complete mutiny in Tampa Bay. On New England's side, you have so many injuries. No Gronkowski, no Amendola. New England's got injuries up and down the board. They were lucky to beat the Jets. They hung on and beat the Jets 13-10. It's 7.5. I know I'm going to regret this. I'm going to take Tampa Bay just because I don't think New England can score with all these guys out. I mean, they only put up 13 points against the Jets and barely won. As bad as Tampa Bay's been, they almost beat the Saints, and they should have beat the Jets. So Tampa Bay, as bad as it's all been, they've been right in the game. So I'm going to reluctantly take Tampa Bay plus 7.5. I'm probably going to regret this pick come Sunday. I just think New England's got too many guys out to put up any amount of points. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm sure New England will win, but I'll take Tampa Bay with the 7.5 points. Let's go to Baltimore, where the Houston Texans are 2.5-point favorites over the Baltimore Ravens. Houston is 2-0. Baltimore is 1-1. And I'll tell you, Baltimore has not looked good at all. They got blown out by Denver, looked very shaky against Cleveland. Ray Rice is a little banged up. Houston had 2 nice come-from-behind wins. They rallied in week 1 against San Diego. Then they rallied last week against Tennessee. I think Houston is just better than Baltimore right now. Baltimore has a lot of new faces. They have a Super Bowl hangover. Ray Rice is hurt. They don't have a lot of weapons on offense. They were lucky to beat Cleveland last week. I know the game's in Baltimore. I think Houston is better right now, so I'm going to take Houston minus 2.5 against Baltimore in Baltimore. Over to Dallas we go. Dallas at home, minus 3.5 over St. Louis. Dallas had a very, very tough loss against the Chiefs last week after beating the Giants in week 1. St. Louis is much improved, but I think they're a year away. St. Louis lost to Atlanta last week after they beat Arizona in week 1. I'm going to take Dallas here. I think Dallas is better at this stage. I think Dallas has more weapons. I think, like I said, I keep saying St. Louis is a year away. I'm going to stick with that. I don't think they're ready to go into Dallas and win this game. So I'm going to take the Cowboys, minus 3.5 over St. Louis in the Big D. Let's go to New Orleans. Let's go to the Superdome, where the New Orleans Saints at home are minus 7 over the Arizona Cardinals. Saints, of course, 2-0. We figured they'd be better this year. They are. They're much improved. Arizona 1-1. They're slightly better also at Carson Palmer at quarterback. Here's the thing. The game's in New Orleans. I don't give Arizona a shot to go down to New Orleans and beat this Saint team. I think the Saints are going to be flying on all cylinders. Anyone that goes into New Orleans is going to have a tough time winning. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals have a chance in this game. I see this game being a complete rout. I think the Saints go to 3-0. They beat the Cardinals. Saints minus 7 over Arizona on Sunday. Let's go to Washington, where the Washington Redskins at 0-2 are minus 2.5 against the Detroit Lions, who are 1-1. Very intriguing game. Washington's got all kinds of problems. Robert Griffin doesn't look like the same player right now. They are home. They are desperate. Detroit always finds a way to lose these type of games. Detroit last week should have beat Arizona. They found a way to lose. Detroit is not a disciplined team. I am going to go with Washington. I think they're desperate. They're home. I don't like the Lions on the road. The Lions are not disciplined. They do a lot of bad things, a lot of mental mistakes. I'm sure the Lions will find a way to lose this game. I think the Redskins come alive this week and beat the Lions. So I like Washington -2.5 over Detroit in Washington. Let's go to Cincinnati, one of the best games of the weekend. The Green Bay Packers -2 over the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 1-1. They had a tough loss to Chicago in week 1, bounced back and beat Pittsburgh on Monday night. Green Bay is 1-1 also. They had a tough loss to San Francisco, then blew out Washington. I think Green Bay's offense is going to be too much for Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati's got a very good defense, very good front, but this Green Bay offense is unstoppable. They look better than ever. I think Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay offense gets it done in Cincinnati in a very, very intriguing must-watch game on Sunday, one of the best games of the weekend. I like Green Bay -2 over Cincinnati. Let's go down to Carolina, where the 0-2 Carolina Panthers are -1 favorites over the New York Giants, who are also 0-2 and sputtering. I mean, we've seen this act before with the Giants. Just when you think they're going to be out of it, they come up with a big win. I think it's going to be the same thing here. I think the Giants get a W here. I'm not impressed with Carolina at all. Cam Newton, after his rookie season, has really struggled. Carolina, I mean, they're stumbling and bumbling every week. I think the Giants find a way, and I don't love what I see from the Giants. I think the Giants find a way to win this game, get to 1-2, and kind of stabilize their season. The Giants have had starts like this in the past. They've had regular seasons like this in the past. They always seem to respond. They always seem to get a win when they need it. I think the Giants win this game. They go down to Carolina and beat the Panthers. I like the Giants +1 over Carolina. Let's go down to Miami, which this is a very, very nice game. The Miami Dolphins at home, -2.5 over the Atlanta Falcons. This is a tremendous game. Miami is 2-0. You know, Atlanta is 1-1. Two really good teams. I think Miami is much improved. Should be a sellout crowd in Miami. I think Atlanta is better than Miami right now. I like what Miami's doing. They got Wallace, they got Tannehill. They're building for the future. But right now, I think Atlanta is better. I think Atlanta gets the job done in a tough game. This is another must-watch game, just like Cincinnati, Green Bay. Circle this one. Miami, Atlanta should be a tremendous game. I like Atlanta +2.5 over Miami down in South Florida. Let's go out to San Francisco, where the San Francisco 49ers are -10-point favorites over the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are 1-1. They beat the Raiders, then lost to Miami at home. San Francisco also 1-1. They had a nice win against Green Bay, then just got demolished by Seattle. I think San Francisco is one of the best teams in football. That's why I think they're going to respond here at home. They're going to be angry the whole week that they took such a beating to Seattle. I think San Francisco responds. They come up with a big effort, and they blow out Indianapolis out in San Francisco. That's what good teams do. They come off a loss, and they rebound. I think San Francisco does it this week. San Francisco -10 over Indianapolis. Let's go to Seattle, where the Seattle Seahawks are 2-0 at home, -19 over Jacksonville, who's 0-2 and the worst team in football. It's gotten so bad in Jacksonville, the fans want Tim Tebow down there. I mean, Gabbert looks like a complete bust. I know the spread's 19. You never see that in the NFL. I think Seattle covers it by the half. I think Seattle wins 49-7. I think it's a complete blowout. Seattle's the best home team in football. Jacksonville's the worst team in all of football. Enough said. Seattle in a rout. Let's go to New York, where the Jets at home at 1-1 are -2.5 over the Buffalo Bills, who are also 1-1. Do I have to pick this game? Do I have to pick a winner here? I mean, two teams with rookie quarterbacks, not a lot of talent. Buffalo did have the nice win last week, the come-from-behind win against Carolina. Jets do have a win over Tampa Bay, almost beat New England. I'm going to take Buffalo +2.5. I think this is a one-point game either way. Flip a coin. I think it's an equal matchup. I could see either team winning. I'm going to say it's 17-16 somebody, so I'm going to take Buffalo +2.5. Let's go to the Sunday night game, where the Chicago Bears at 2-0 are -2.5 over the 0-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Bears had two nice wins back-to-back. They beat Cincinnati and Minnesota. Pittsburgh, desperation time for them. They lose to Tennessee at home. Then they lose on Monday Night Football to Cincinnati. Pittsburgh doesn't win this game, their season is over. I think it's going to be a long season either way. I think Pittsburgh, with their pride, playing at home. Chicago's a good team. They're not great. I think Pittsburgh ekes it out somehow. Maybe like, 21-20, keeps their season alive. I just see Pittsburgh finding a way to win this game. Now, Pittsburgh's offense is a mess. Their running game is a disaster. Their offensive line is a disaster. Roethlisberger gets hit on every play. Pittsburgh's got to find a way to protect Roethlisberger. I think they eke it out here. The Bears are a good team. They're not a great team. I know I'm going out on a limb here. The Bears have looked better than Pittsburgh so far. I'm going to say Pittsburgh at home shows some pride, wins the game. Now, if you told me the Bears were going to win, I couldn't argue with you. The Bears right now are better than Pittsburgh. I just think being in Pittsburgh, Sunday night, the Steelers are 0-2, a little desperate. I think they're going to find a way to win the game. Now, I don't think the Steelers are going to the playoffs anyway, but at least they have a flicker of hope if they win this game. They lose, their season is over already. So I'm going to take the Steelers plus 2.5 over the Bears, going out on a limb there. On Monday Night Football, we have the 2-0 Denver Broncos at home, minus 15 over the 1-1 Oakland Raiders. The Raiders have actually played decently. Could have beat the Colts in week 1 before they lost at the end. Then they beat Jacksonville. Denver looks like the best team right now in all of the AFC. Had 2 very impressive wins over Baltimore and the Giants. We know Denver and Peyton Manning's MO. They're going to have a big regular season. Can they get it done in the playoffs? I think Oakland hangs in for a half, but Denver's got too much firepower for them. Denver pulls away late, scores a lot of points. I'm going to say Denver puts up 45 points in this game, covers the spread, and pulls away late. So I like Denver at home, minus 15 over the Oakland Raiders on Monday Night Football. So there are your picks. Let's quickly recap them real quick. On Thursday night, I like Philly, minus 3 over Kansas City. On the Sunday games, let's get to the Sunday games. I like San Diego plus 3.5 against Tennessee. I like Minnesota minus 5.5 against Cleveland. I like Tampa Bay plus 7.5 against New England. I like Houston minus 2.5 against Baltimore. Dallas minus 3.5 against St. Louis. New Orleans minus 7 against Arizona. Washington minus 2.5 against Detroit. Green Bay minus 2 against Cincinnati. Giants plus 1 against Carolina. Atlanta plus 2.5 against Miami. San Francisco minus 10 against Indianapolis. Seattle minus 19 against Jacksonville. Buffalo plus 2.5 against the Jets. Pittsburgh plus 2.5 against Chicago. And Denver minus 15 over Oakland. So those are your picks. I'll tell you, the NFL in the first 2 weeks has been really, really close. All the games have been super, super close. So we should have another exciting week in the NFL. Okay, as far as tonight, what to watch? A lot to watch tonight. The NFL, we have the big Philadelphia-Kansas City game. Very intriguing game. Andy Reid back to Philadelphia. College game tonight. Number 3 Clemson at North Carolina State. Very interesting game. North Carolina State's home. They have a great fan base. Fans should be going crazy. Clemson on the road sometimes is not the same team. NC State has been known to pull up upsets before. They beat Florida State a bunch of times, and a bunch of times on Thursday night as well. I think Clemson gets a battle here for 2-3 quarters, but pulls away late. But definitely check out this game. I think the crowd's going to be amazing tonight at NC State. I think it's going to be close for a while, then Clemson pulls away late. Also tonight, Major League Baseball, every game so important. Baltimore at Boston, very important. Yankees in Toronto, very important. Texas, Tampa, very important. Miami and Washington. Washington's still hanging on by a thread. And Houston plays Cleveland. Keep an eye on the Indians right now. They got 4 games at home against Houston. Then they play the White Sox. The Indians are only a half game out, game in the loss column. Look for the Indians to make a move right now. I think the Indians are going to jump up in the standings. So we have a lot going on tonight. Big NFL game, decent college football game, and some important baseball games. Okay, there you go. You guys are all caught up. Tomorrow we're going to recap what went on in baseball, the Clemson-NC State game, the Philly-Kansas City game, and we're going to preview what's coming up over the weekend. You guys, thanks for the support. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being outside with me here today. You guys enjoy the games tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow, Friday. Have a great day. Enjoy the games tonight. Take care.